If you've ever wondered what makes one jazz standard more difficult than another, or what jazz standard do you need to be working on based on your level of improvisational fluency, then this video is going to be the most important video you've seen since my last video. And that one was crucial. You see, the tunes teach us mastery, just like the boulders teach the climbers mastery. Think about how climbers train for boulder problems. It's a nuanced preparation. It's not just exercises. There's an intellectual and cerebral aspect that is fundamental to that discipline. And what's really interesting is the degree to which you engage intellectually directly affects how much you rely on physical technique. In the same way, musical improvisation requires a nuanced set of preparation. And what it really boils down to is knowledge of the pathways. Now, the idea with the pathways is to give yourself a buffer for success, because you know you're never going to complete the route or the tune the same way twice. That's the point. In music, there's an emphasis on bringing new ideas and endless infinite variation. Obviously, the climbing is more utilitarian. But of course, the climbers talk about the artistic creativity. They see themselves as artists, and now I'm showing exactly what they mean. The whole idea is you need to prepare variations that you're ready to deploy at any moment, because that's what protects you from failure. And this is why improvisation is the ultimate signature of mastery, because it makes you invincible. Think about Alex Honnold, the ultimate free soloist. Think about the types of improvisation he deals with. He rehearses pathways to varying degrees and often relies heavily on improvisation to stay alive, dude. That classic TED Talk, he tells this beautifully masterful story. He just explains that he didn't have the pathway mastered and he almost lost his life because of it, right? Like, oh, high stakes. But it's the same thing in music. I mean, failure and death and failure, it's all the same. Alex Honnold's just at that really high stakes. So in the same way, the climbers got to protect themselves from failure, us musicians, we got to protect ourselves from failure, and that affects a few different levels. This one level is the failure of developing mastery, right? You can fail to develop mastery if you don't take the right steps in the right order. This whole grading of jazz standards concept, this is the real keys to the kingdom. Like I said, the standards teach us mastery. So it's crucial that we use them in an effective way, right? Like if you're a climber, you wouldn't go climb a V10 in your first year of climbing. Okay, let's talk about that grading system. So we're going to grade these to the International Boulder Problem Grading System, which is the V scale, which starts at a V0 and goes up to V10 plus. I think people think all the way into even like V17, V18. And of course, this just rates the difficulty of climbing a boulder problem. So the criteria is of course going to be like how the holds are, right? Is there anything to grip onto, or is there hardly anything to grip onto? You know, all these different things. Dynamic moves like jumping from one part of the boulder to the next. These and many other things are what this grading system is based on for the boulder problems. So for the jazz standards, our criteria is going to be three things. We have three primary criteria that's going to allow us to grade jazz standards according to this scale. First criteria is form length. Length is crucial, right? And that's why we start with practice form 1, the 2-bar sequence. That's your V0. And think about it. How many people would come into V0 and not even know what to do with that, right? They would look at it and be like, what is this, F minor? I think, I'm not sure. Should I play F minor? Like, you already barely know what to do with it. That's why length is such a crucial criteria, because imagine having to do this with 4 bars or 8 bars when you're just looking at these chords and you're like, I don't even 100% know exactly what the goal here is, other than I guess play maybe some F minor related things, right? So length, absolutely clutch criteria. Second criteria, chord change frequency. Now this is a weird one because sometimes chord changes are helpful, but too many of them can get overwhelming, not enough. You can get lost, right? So it's like, just like with the boulder problems, man. And then the third criteria is just gonna be harmonic complexity, right? Like, is it a bunch of 2-5-1s, or is it all these other changes we've never even thought about? Now, just to keep this video relatively efficient, I'm not gonna obviously play every example in here, but here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to comment which of these tunes you want me to play and talk about in future videos as we go through this list. So obviously, you know, practice form 1. Now just look at that entire V0, V1, V2 tier. It's all just short tunes. Goat, remember Goat, 4-bar form. Really, really great introduction to chord changes there. And then of course, just the two of us, another 4-bar form, right? A lot to grasp there. Like on those 3 forms alone, you can completely understand the logic of triadic voice leading. And you better understand that logic, because when you go to intermediate, you get in the V3, that's all you have. You're 100% reliant on your ability to voice lead triads. And you know you're gonna have to expand beyond the triads soon enough, but stay with the triads at these levels, the V3, V4. But look, these are both 12-bar forms, right? So that short form, absolutely clutch. And look how much there is to grasp on this. If you actually want to play the blues, look at all these chords, man. Like that's a lot to wrap your head around if you really want to understand it. You know, it's one thing to just BS your way through it. And just remember, if you start BSing on V3, V4, dude, you're never going to get to V6, V7. You got to start building perfect technique at this lower level, which is why you can spend 2, 3, 4 months on V0, V1, V2. Like that is a beautiful, I highly recommend this. That's what JD realizes the turbo booster.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
The turbo booster is great.
Just take the turbo booster practice framework to the nth compounded infinite degree on literally practice form 1. And you're a twisted psycho genius within 3 months. And then you can jump over to blues and hit solar and you're like, wow, this is easy. Literally, like you can make that leap very easy for yourself. If you go really deep on practice form 1, when you get to V3, V4, it's not particularly difficult. Like you're gonna spend a week hearing the chord changes, seeing the triadic voice leading, and you'll be able to start focusing on high-level concepts like call and response with all that language that you developed. All right, so now things get a little complicated, right? So getting into V4, so look at, what's the difference between Solar and Cantaloupe Island? Cantaloupe Island's still pretty short form with 16 bars. It's also modal, so it's a different, you can't rely on triads in the same way. But yet you still need to at the transition. So like now, like things compound. That's what so what is like. It's getting like, whoa, it's already getting like, like in V4, you have to start thinking outside the box just to survive at V4. Softly as a Morning Sunrise, you want to play that tune for real? It's got a lot of chord changes. That's the minor rhythm changes. You know, nail the phrasing of that form, that 32 bar, like that length. Look, we're already at 32 bar length, which is now, it's getting real out here. Good thing these chord changes are like very straightforward, very, very simple, but still phrasing 32 bars is hard for anyone, man. Especially if you just came from playing a lot of blues and you got used to playing 12 bars. Think about the leap from 12 bars to 32 bars. That's a leap a lot of people have to make. And you have to do that all from V3 to V5. All right, what's the rest of V5, V6? Woo! All the things you are. Form length. Asymmetry on Green Dolphin Street, some weird ass chords, but a symmetrical form, 32 bars. Rhythm changes is a monster. To play really good rhythm changes, you have to be focusing on high level concepts such as call and response, macro phrasing, but there's a ton of chord changes. Good thing that they're a lot of the same, like it's that classic A, where the A's are mostly the same, but there's actually subtle differences. Like V5, V6, not messing around out here. Stella by Starlight, try getting that in your ear, right? You better understand triads. Some night Prince will come. Oh, welcome to 3. Yeah, that one busts your head up. Start playing chord changes in 3. Yeah! I'll never forget. Blue and Green, here's your first ballad. Oh, you're gonna have to master chords now. Can't play a ballad unless you have chord mastery. So you're at V6 and you already need chord mastery. I mean, have you met Miss Jones? You need triadic voice leading mastery. And you do need chord mastery, and you're not even an advanced yet. You need to be a master of theory at this point, but you will be if you learn the theory according to these tunes. And remember, the tunes themselves teach us mastery. If you learn the theory according to these tunes, you'll be good. Like, you'll understand Blue and Green. It will make crystal clear sense to you. Out of context, just playing Blue and Green because you heard it on Kind of Blue and you're like, oh, I want to try that tune. It's like, it doesn't even make any sense. So many layers of nuance. All right, let's look at advanced V7, V8, V9. You knew it. So this is super interesting. So Fee, Fi, Fo, Fum. Just a wacky ass tune. And I'll tell you now, when we get to V10 and beyond, we're gonna look at some charts, because you can look at these charts anywhere. These are in the real books. You guys can find these charts. I got some charts you can't find, ones that I made, right? Think about where we're going for V10 plus. Like, what do you think those ones are? because you've already got giant steps at V8. You got conception at V9, so a weird form there. Stablemates at V8, another weird form. ABA, yo! Get those ones in your ear. Okay, Dahoud has a little Coltrane sequence in there. Look at that. Classic ascending a minor third, ascending a fourth from that, then down a half step to hit that 5 chord, then back to that 1 chord, like classic advanced chord changes. Central Park West, there's your second ballad, weird ass form ballad. Like, what do you play at this big pedal thing? Well, Protocosmos. So this is a short one, but just like totally wacky. Protocosmos is a great introduction to playing like forms that don't make sense in the traditional way, where you have a 13 bar form, but bar 13 is bar 2, like watch out. Dun, 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 bow. Like, better hit it every time. Super valuable lesson. And I suppose this is a good time to tell you now. So I did an Alan Holdsworth tribute concert with some absolute legends. Antoine Pellegrin on bass, Sean Allison on drums, Andy King on trumpet. That was one of the most formative practice periods of my life, preparing for that concert. Obviously, I memorized everything, so I got those Holdsworth charts, and you can understand them in this jazz framework, and you understand how he thinks by looking at the way he composes. Like, he's following a lot of the same conventions, but he's deviating with a lot of conviction because he studied the music. Like, he studied tunes like Conception. I mean, he literally plays giant steps, he plays countdown, and he totally channels the Coltrane on 16 Men of Tane. But like tunes like The Sorcerer, Maiden Voyage, right? These modal forms that are just horrific. To get them in your ear, yeah! Conception, to get that in your ear. But once you get it in your ear, man, it's like the infinite intergalactics enter your awareness, because that's what these tunes, these ones that made it in the standards, these tunes have that vibe to them. They're cosmically exactly perfect. That's why they're jazz standards. Like, they're just perfect. Everything about these tunes that we're talking about, like the American Songbook repertoire thing, they're all like discovered masterpieces. And Holdsworth is on this list. His tunes make it into that in this wacky way, which makes sense. And look, let's look at the Pro. Are the Holdsworth tunes in the Pro? Nope. The Holdsworth tunes are in the Elite. Dude, look what Pro is. 26-2, obviously. Obviously, your first V10 is 26-2, 1,000,000%. Falling Grace, easily V11, V12. That's you've achieved musical enlightenment when you can play through Falling Grace. Unequivocally. It's literally the point of no return. Like, you just become a channel for music where there's no blockages between the signal and your output. When you can play Falling Grace at V11, V12. Satellite, beyond. It's beyond. V13, like, and just a caveat, like, some people might argue Falling Grace is harder than Satellite. I could see that argument, but that's the whole point with these grading systems. It's highly approximate, but it's to protect you, dude. Like, don't go play Falling Grace until you've completed a good chunk of greens, yellows, and reds. All right, let's look at Elite. That's what we got. Texas. You'll remember this. Do-ba-don't, boo-ba-don't, boo-ba-don't, like, big riff, right? This is writing rock riffing music with all of the power of jazz mastery. That's what this Texas song is. Compare this to Falling Grace, right? Look at these line cliches, right? You got to get this, right? You got to get this D over F sharp. You have to respect that bottom motion, those kinds of levels of specificity. And then when you look at Texas, you're like, okay, so we're all going to play this riff in unison. There's no chord changes. Do-ba-don't, boo-ba-don't, boo-ba-don't. We always play that. Oh, and then there's that groove section. Like, it's just pacing, and then just punch this. Oh, and then it's 2 bars of 4 and a bar of 5, but there's clearly the double bar. That's the phrase. for the rhythm section to look at so they could see the form and know what to do, right? Like, what are these chords? What is this? Know what I'm saying? You're just following the form. You're following the chord changes. That's all that's going on here. Right, we're not even at the solo section. I'm just like kind of just giving an overview of like what charts look like, you know, compared to Falling Grace, which is a V11, V12, and now we're looking at Texas, which is a V14. Like, it's barely the same paradigm, but it is. It's definitely the same. And that's actually the key. You have to see it as the same paradigm. In order to understand Texas, 16 Men Obtain, Looking Glass, Above and Below, Zarabeth, Fred, you have to see them in the jazz standard frameworks. I know from experience that if I can just see it in that jazz standard framework, I can understand, I can play this, I can hear this. This is really stretching our minds. All right, are we seriously setting up a reaction for the solo on Texas? Oh my God, I think we are. All right, by now I shouldn't have to warn you that my face will probably not be suitable for children as I'm listening to this, but we got to make a crucial point about how this form is a discovery. Right? It's just a rocket turbo boosted power ship to the intergalactics. Alan Holdsworth takes the turbo booster and just rides that thing as far as he possibly can. So the form is incredibly legit, and his accuracy in playing that form is the reason why the solo goes intergalactically ballistic. This is probably one of the heaviest solos of all time. Every solo on this album, 16 Men Obtain, ranks in the top greatest, most masterful expressions of music ever in history. This album is just way out of the galaxy. Understand what's going on? Do you start to see the paradigm emerge for yourself? I really hope you do. That was the goal of this video. I want you to see the bars. I want you to see the forms. I want you to see the jazz standards on the grading system. This is meant to protect you. And of course, you better as hell get a coach through this, dude. You're insane to go doing this. This is dangerous. As a musician, you don't have to make it hard on yourself, you know? Everyone who understands all this stuff, all these chords, all these tunes, had to have a guide at multiple points along the process. But I think a lot of guitarists right now here in 2025 are starting to become interested in the V scale jazz standard grading. Like, a lot of people have been playing for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years and haven't even done V0, right? So in some ways, you could say the musical journey is so far because you don't even know what the journey is for like half the time that you're on it, unless you get lucky and you start with a teacher who shows you first principle day one exactly what you need to do, which is basically do this. Just, okay, understand chord changes, understand voice leading, and understand form. And then just compound these skills through all these different boulder problems, through all these different form problems. And you'll see there's one single unified mentality that weaves everything together. And you understand that single unified mentality in practice form 1. That's why it's worth it to stay on practice form 1, go just the two of us, stay V0, V1, V2 for like 2, 3, 4 months. Because after, say, a 3-month period where you really master everything that's here in the beginner phase, you hit that huge turbo boost when you hit blues and solar. That just rattles you off. You're like, whoa!
I understand what musical fluency is.
And then you realize that it's just a matter of different conversations and different contexts. These standards provide you all of that. But of course, just like Alan Holdsworth did, you can write your own, or you can use Alan Holdsworth's. But like I said, you're not doing yourself any favors by jumping around. You know, start at the appropriate levels, right? And I'd say for most people, most of you guys watching this video, you guys all should start at practice form 1. Unless you've already completed Intro to Fretboard Mastery and you understand triadic voice leading, obviously the next thing you need to do is just do that on the blues and solar, but you're already gonna be like,
Well, what do I do with diminish? What do I do with these chord changes we haven't seen yet?
and it's just like, well, you know, just join my course and I'll show you everything with crystal clear clarity. I'll give you access to my 5-step roadmap to mastery. This thing is the keys to the kingdom. This is the guide that will take you through all of these tunes from V0 to V16, V17, because V17 is coming, it just hasn't happened yet. So to summarize this entire mentality that I've revealed for you, if you want to speak the language of music fluently and articulately and with knowledge of precedent and convention, so that you can then go create new conventions and precedents, my program is probably going to be the best investment you ever made in yourself. I can promise you that from the bottom of my heart. So a link to join that's going to be in the description. I'm going to assume you've already gone through Intro to Fretboard Mastery. That doesn't take long. That's like a 1-day thing. Watch a 30-minute video, get those 3 fingerings in your mind, start to see them under your fingers, and then you're ready to join up, because I'm just going to take that and compound it through this process using this guide map. And you can see why people complete this thing in less than 6 months, right? It's not that freaking complicated. And obviously you don't complete every single tune here, but we're going to complete tunes from each tier, obviously. Original composition gets sprinkled in really quickly because you want to understand how to take the concepts of these forms we're looking at, these Ancient of Days, ultimately iconic American songbook bangers. You have to get good at recreating things that you learn from these, right? That's like one of the first levels. So composition and practice, we have one singular curriculum based on just composition practice. So you already know if you got to be in this program. Let's get to work. Ooh, intro month discount. One-time payment so you can test it out before you make a full decision to commit. But we're running that still. Link in the description for that. Get it before I crank up the price, which I'm definitely doing very soon.